Good afternoon, and thank you for being here with fellow Republicans who care about the future of our coast, our state, and our country. Today, we're proud to host the Republican candidates for U.S. Congressional District 34, Texas House District 27, and Cameron County GOP Chair. This afternoon is about hearing directly from the candidates and standing strong for conservative leadership. We're grateful today to have Sergio Sanchez, your state moderator, and also our timekeeper, Mr. Eddie Padron, who's well known within our Republican group. Thank you, Ed. At this time, I'd like to go ahead and introduce Ms. Estella Lindquist, who is our club secretary, who will be introducing our speakers. I'd also like to ask Ms. Lori Swayze to please come now, and she will be leading us in our invocation. So if everyone will please stand and remain standing for the pledges which will follow. Thank you all for being here. Stay engaged, and let's get started.
We'll go ahead and bow your heads. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we come together to thank you for who you are in our lives. We gather with gratitude for the freedom to speak openly, and we ask for your presence in this place and your guidance over this forum. Grant wisdom and clarity to each candidate as they share their ideas and visions. Help them to speak with honesty, humility, and respect. May their words be guided not by decisiveness or division or ambition, but by a sincere desire to serve the common good. We pray for those listening today that our hearts and minds remain open, discerning, and fair. Help us to listen carefully, to seek truth, and to treat one another with dignity, even if we disagree. And we ask all of this in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
honor
The Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
And to commence, I now introduce a wonderful lady. She's a mover and a shaker in the city of Harlingen. She has served the community for many years, both with civic organizations, nonprofit organizations. I introduce you now, candidate for HC 37, Kristen Lucky.
He gave me instructions. Follow instructions. Wow, it's packed. I'm so happy it's packed. Awesome. Good afternoon. I'd like to first say a thank you to the Cameron County Republican Women for putting this wonderful event together. I want to, it was really good. I also would like to thank you to everyone who came out today, because it's so very important that when you vote, you know exactly who and what you're voting for. I'm going to do a short little bio real quick. I am an 8th generation Texan, 5th generation RGV resident, happily married to a retired federal agent. We have 5 grown children. I was raised by farmers and local bankers. We are a pro-law enforcement family. We are a pro-military family. My father-in-law, stepmother-in-law, and husband all served with U.S. Border Patrol. And we have 3 generations of U.S. Army 82nd Airborne in our family, and my daughter married one as well. That being said, I've served our community for over 20 years, being involved in countless nonprofits that benefit our community, as well as serving on boards at the city, county, and state level. I am a Christian. I'm a practicing Episcopalian. My decisions and my actions are based on my biblical morals and values, because I might answer to my community while here on earth, but in the end, I answer to Him. Enough about me, let's get to the meat and potatoes of why we're here. I'm sure you've noticed that I'm the only candidate in my race who agreed to attend today, and that's a problem. The incumbent in the race did not show up here today, and she did not show up in Austin with the right votes in the legislature when it came to representing you guys. If you elect me to be your state representative, I promise to show up for you here at home and in Austin, and I promise that I will never forget that I work for you. Your loyalty should never be to a politician. They owe you their loyalty. And the minute they aren't loyal to the community, it's time for them to go. Thank you. My message is very simple. I support limited government, secure borders, fiscal responsibility, parental rights, public safety, and local control. I am a South Texas first kind of girl. Speaking of those, border security and immigration. Key points: law, safety, and community protection. I believe we should enforce existing immigration law. I support barriers, manpower, and technology when and where it is effective, and strong state and local cooperation with federal authorities. I am pro-legal immigration and anti-lawlessness. Border security not only protects families, it also protects landowners and resources. Little note, my opponent voted in favor of SB 17. This bill attempted to pass an amendment allowing foreign nationals lawfully present on visas to purchase or hold Texas land. The backlash on this was so severe that the author backtracked and claimed that they themselves intended to vote no on their own amendment. Let's talk about economy and cost of living. The government needs to stop making life more expensive. We need to reduce taxes and unnecessary regulations. I oppose unfunded mandates. Support small businesses and workers. Prosperity comes from people, not government. Note, my opponent voted 95% of the time in favor of bills that cost taxpayers money, including SB 1002, that would establish a statewide framework for public electric vehicle charging stations, relying on nearly $500 million of federal funds plus state tax dollars while adding strength to an already stressed electric grid. She voted in favor of one of the key motions that allowed this bill to move forward. Education. Parents first and local control. I believe strong public schools with accountability. I support parental choice without harming rural schools, and I reject a one-size-fits-all mandate. Transparency and measurable outcomes matter. Healthcare should be about patients and doctors, not politicians. I oppose government-run healthcare. I support market competition to lower those costs. I reduce regulations that limit access and expand rural and underserved care options. Note, my opponent voted in favor of HB 1898, which created a grant program for children's hospitals to provide mental health and behavioral health services. Another rep made an amendment to prohibit grant funds from being used for gender transitioning or gender affirming services, which was killed on a point of order before the House vote. However, she voted for the unamended House version that lacked this protection. Thankfully, later, the Senate added explicit language barring the grant funds from being used for the previously mentioned. Water and natural resources. Any of y'all that have heard me speak before know I love to talk about water. Key points: stewardship, infrastructure, and property rights. We need long-term water planning for families and agriculture. We need to invest in infrastructure and conservation, and we need to protect private property rights. Local decision-making over state overreach. The water issue in our district are 3 different issues: drainage, irrigation, and consumption. There is not a one-size-fits-all solution to any of these, but it's time we start being proactive and stop being reactive to these issues. Taxes and spending. Texans are being taxed out of their homes. I support meaningful property tax relief, strict limits on government spending, and the government, just like all of us, must live within their means. And every dollar spent needs to be justified. Note, my opponent voted in favor of SB 2220, authorizing certain cities and local government corporations to divert state tax revenue to fund local projects effectively taking taxpayer money from communities like Raymondville, Harlingen, and Brownsville to subsidize projects in other places like Dallas and San Antonio. Social, cultural issues, protect life, protect families, and protect parental rights. Respect faith and community values. Keep radical ideology out of our schools. Freedom requires responsibility and boundaries. No, my opponent agreed with Democrats on Democrat-authored bills 91.9% of the time, while Democrat Terry Canales only agreed with his own party 81.7% of the time. She does not stand for conservative Republican values. I'd like to finish by saying that I'm running to represent South Texas values in the Texas House. I will always put our district first and answer to the people who live here and not Austin insiders. And for any Austin insiders who want to attempt to bully me out of this race by telling me that I'm going to lose because I don't have Austin support, let me remind you, I'm not asking for Austin's vote, and Austin does not represent District 37. The voters do. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to take a couple questions. Anybody has a question? Yes. I'm sorry. If you can't come to the mic, that's questions. Thank you.
Okay. My name is Stephanie Wilson. I'm from the Vista. I have a special needs adult son who has been on a waiting list for the state here in Texas since he was 7 years old. He is now almost 25. Texas is one of the worst in the country when it comes to funding for programs for people with disabilities. And I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts on that, any ideas, or were you even aware?
Yeah, thank you for your question. Was aware of it, and it definitely needs to be addressed. A waiting list for that time, that's inexcusable. That's something that attention needs to be brought onto, because I guarantee you're not the only one. And so, yes, it is something I absolutely would love to get to Austin and have some discussions about. Why is there a waiting list? Where's the funding being cut? What can we do? I definitely hear you, and I'd love to talk to you more about it and get some more details. Because it's questions like this that when I get to Austin, I have something to arm myself with. So I appreciate you. Thank you. Yes.
Hi, my name is Andy Hotchkiss from Harlingen. I have two questions. One, what role should transparency and accessibility play in state representatives' relationship with constituents, and how would you practice that differently than the incumbent if elected?
I thank you for your question. I believe transparency is key to it. The minute you stop being transparent or inaccessible, you stop being effective, because at that point, you're no longer representing your constituents. Again, born and raised in Harlingen, my whole family lives in Harlingen. I love the city of Harlingen. I love District 37. I love Cameron County. And I pride myself on meeting as many people and sitting down and listening. As much as I love these types of events, several people in this room I've already sat down with, I love hearing, I want to hear what your issues are, what your thoughts are, what your opinions are, and what possible solutions are. So I fully intend on being accessible to the constituents of District 37, whether it be right now, social media. The person who answers on social, that's me. If you call that number, I answer. If you email Team Lucky, that's me. And I plan on continuing to be there for my constituents afterwards.
Thank you. And then I have a second question. So I know you gave a list of different things that were voted on in the past legislatures, or in the past legislative sessions. What is one vote or decision you would commit to handling differently than the incumbent, and why?
That she's already voted on, things that have already gone through, or something new?
Yes, what would be something
That she already, she voted on a lot. There's a whole list out on my table if you just want to look at them on the way out. One of them that I really disagreed with, and this is just a lack of homework on her part, was the one to fund hospitals with grant money with taxpayer dollars and not fully looking into what the outcome of that could be. Tax-funded gender affirming care or gender transitioning for minors is completely unexcusable, and tax dollars should never go to that. I think definitely would have had myself and my team do a little more homework on that one and vote against that one without that verbiage being in there right off the bat.
Thank you.
I think we're ready. Thank you.
Kristen, Sharia law is becoming a red flag in our state. How would you deal with that?
Again, I'll bring up the fact that I'm married to an 82nd Airborne soldier who spent time overseas. And one thing he is very, very open on, and we have discussions about how the Muslim religion is completely incompatible with not only our founding fathers, but our Christian nation as a whole. There's no place for Sharia law in our country, but there sure is, there's no place for it in Texas. I will not tolerate it. It's not acceptable. If they want to practice Sharia law, there's about 50 other countries they can go to and practice.
Great responses. Thank you, Kristen. Everybody give a round of applause. So I'll be going over a few housekeeping issues and what to expect during this debate. Before we begin, just a few things to go over. Please take a moment of silence. Take a moment to silence your cell phone so we can avoid any interruptions. Everybody can down their ringer, put it on vibrate, please. Restrooms are located down that hallway. There's an exit right through there, and the restrooms are right across. And we've got coffee and tea and water available as you step out the main doors. Following today's program, we invite you to stay for a social with observers, where we'll have plenty of opportunity to mingle with the candidates. We've got local and state candidates present as well. Voter registration will also be available for anyone who's not yet registered or needs to update their information. Please see Cynthia for assistance. Cynthia, say hi, everybody. And now a quick overview of how today's debate will run. Each candidate will have 5 minutes for their opening presentation. The speaking order was determined by draw. The debate will include 3 rounds of moderated questions led by your moderator, Sergio Sanchez. Topics will cover, in round 1, broad policy issues such as healthcare, border security, federal spending, and term limits. Round 2, national and strategic issues, including foreign policy with economic growth. Round 3, specific legislation and ethics-related topics. Audience questions will be taken at the end and will be limited to 5 questions total. Each candidate will conclude with a 1-minute closing statement. We ask that everyone remain respectful and avoid interruptions. And note that time limits will be strictly enforced to ensure fairness. Thank you for being here this afternoon and enjoy the candidate rumble. Eric Flores. Luis Puenteo.
Of all the rules that were expressed, the ground rules for this, let me hyper-emphasize one for our participants. Not only the fact to be respectful, please allow the candidate to complete their thought. No interruptions while the candidate is speaking, and the time is marked. Okay, so just hold it, I'm done, and then. I have some business, in-house business I need to take care of. Meaning, I got a stack of polling unofficial exit. At the end of that. I forgot to ask you about it. Okay, the rules have been read. And by the way, the vicarious punching bag, in case you're frustrated with overtaxation and government waste, that'd be Earl over here as Uncle Sam. Please do not punch him. Not actually Uncle Sam. Let me, the candidates have drawn a little ping-pong ball to determine who goes first, second, third, all that. So Gregory Kunkel will be first, and Keith Allen will be second. Eric Hoyt, third, Luis Buentello, the fourth, and Maya will be fifth. So we start today's candidate rumble with a 5-minute presentation from each of the candidates, and we start with Greg Kunkel. Go ahead, Greg.
Ladies and gentlemen, my neighbors, my family, future constituents, Republicans here in South Texas. My name is Gregory Kunkel Jr., and I'm ready to be your next congressman here in Texas, 34th Congressional District. I'm a Christian. I'm a father, a husband of 17 years, a resident of the district. I live right down the road in Laguna Vista, Texas, and I want to welcome you here today to the Laguna Madre District, Texas's 34th Congressional District. It is my pleasure and honor to speak to you to all of you. And my story begins where many of yours have. My conservative mother, a Hispanic immigrant, first generation here in the United States of America, crossed the border in Reynosa. Her family, coming from Mexico, her father became a U.S. citizen, a Vietnam veteran. My father from Indiana. I'm a born and bred mutt of the U.S.-Mexico border, just like many of the people that are here today. And my mother taught me the meaning of the American dream, conservative Hispanic values, and what a privilege it is to live here. And as your congressman, it is my job to make that dream as accessible as possible for our children and their children. My mother worked actually right down the road at the Laguna Vista Detention Processing Center, where she was the first nurse to die of COVID due to Joe Biden's immigration surge, where they had an influx of hundreds of migrants every single day with COVID, and she unfortunately passed. It was at that moment that I knew that I needed to get involved. Just like all of you here today, you want to be involved. Your vote matters. The people of South Texas' vote matter. And we are not for sale to Washington, D.C. If you do not know, politics affects policy, and policy directly affects people. And that's why I step before you today with a vision for South Texas, a vision for the Republican Party, a vision for the future and the next 25 years here in our district. I ask you today, do you know the plan for the next 25 years? I'm sure some of you, looking at retirement, planning your future and your children, you do. And you know the importance of planning for the future. And that is why I stake my entire campaign on Vision 2050, the next 25 years in South Texas. In my vision, we will embark on energy, trade jobs for our children, opening up our ports, going to the moon and Mars for right here in the district, new jobs, innovation right here in South Texas, as we are seeing right here now today. But you know what? It's not just about having a vision. It's not just about the speeches. Ladies and gentlemen, we need principled conservatives with a background in Washington, D.C. to represent these people. And that is who I am before you today. Because right now, guess who represents our district? A Democrat. A Democrat that is forgotten our people along the entire coast of South Texas. A Democrat that has not secured our water for South Texas and our farmers, that has not secured the water for Corpus Christi. A Democrat that is not bringing jobs or innovation or worried about our children, the next generation. They are getting their PAC money, they are living a life of luxury, and not even living in their own district with the people that we represent. But that is why I'm here to fight for the Republican Party. That is why I'm presenting my vision to you today, and that is why I care about the issues that I do. Our southern border, jobs for our children, water for the people, ladies and gentlemen, over the next 25 years. And that is what I plan and promise. You can read my vision, 35 pages that I wrote. No AI, maybe a spell check, my wife edited. Thank you for being here today, honey, as well. But this vision details a plan encompassing everything from water for the next 25 years, all the way up to our conservative Christian values, protecting the most important, the unborn children that are in the womb. And as a matter of fact, ladies and gentlemen, most of y'all here are pro-life. Being a Christian as well, I am ready to embark with the Republican Party on protecting the next generation in pro-life adoption. Making sure that children today that are alive, Democrats often talk about wanting to stay the unborn, but what about those that are here today? Well, it's time for Republicans to step up, to protect the next generation, to look to the future, and that's what I am bringing to you here today. You know, right down the road, the richest man in the world, a voter in this district, an legal immigrant entrepreneur is going back to the moon, going to Mars, because that's what we do in America. We excel. We've done it before in the past, and make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen, we are in a race with China and the rest of the world over technology innovation, and we are leading it right here in South Texas. So I'm humbly asking for your vote. My neighbors, my friends, future friends, my constituents, fellow Republicans, please join my vision for the future, because that is what will win. Ideas and bring it to the people of South Texas. Thank you very much.
Thank you, candidate. Let's keep down. Vice President. Go ahead. Let's see, do we have this mic working? Hey, it's working. All right, I'm gonna jump right in here. I'm Keith Allen. I am a husband. I am a father of 4. I am a businessman, and I am an ordained minister, Christian minister. Many of you that have heard me speak before, I normally start with some kind of prayer. In the interest of time, I will just say, I love Jesus Christ. That's the Lord of my life, always has been, always will be, and I give him glory. I love Jesus, I love our country, and I love our nation. And I want to see this nation return to the laws and the culture of the God that we were founded on. That's what my campaign is all about. I have not lived in Corpus very long. I just moved to Corpus Christi recently. Prior to that, I was actually in McAllen, Texas, the heart of the community. And my career didn't start in office. My career didn't start in a cubicle. It started in the real world of retail. For those of you who have been in it, for many years, I held high-level positions in the retail industry, much of it down here. I was an executive responsible for multi-unit business, so I had many different stores that I was responsible for. I oversaw their budgets, so from a P&L standpoint, people standpoint, talent selection, I had it from nuts to bolts, and I had a lot of success. But the last 4 years, many of you will know this company, I went to work in the grocery industry. I actually went to work for HEB Grocery. Where does that fall in today? I can tell you the last couple of years, I ran the down in Texas store. And I will tell you, I saw men and women, families come through those lines counting pennies because the price of milk, eggs, bread, everything in the last 4 years had gotten crazy. I'm a man of faith, I'm a minister, and I'm a tested business executive. I'm running because I believe we need a servant in Washington who actually knows how to run a big business operation, not another career politician. Living and working in the Valley, I didn't need the news. I didn't have to watch the news to know what the border was all about. I've lived here. We can all agree, a nation without borders. Our president says it often. A nation without borders isn't a nation at all. I fully support the One Big Beautiful Bill that just added $45 billion to finish the smart wall on our southern border. But as a minister, many of you probably heard about the 500 miles of buoys that were put in the water. I'll just say those aren't just barriers, those are humanitarian deterrents. I don't think there's any one of us here that would want another soul lost to the rivers and to that river, and I'm really happy that that was included in that bill. As a minister, when I look at our border and I say, well, what are we responsible for as a government, as a federal government? Our federal government is responsible for the safety and the security of its citizens. And when we look at the cartel actions on our border, when we look at the drugs that have come in, the government has not been doing their job. Thank God President Trump stepped in and we're getting there. This new district, District 34, is now an economic engine in Texas. We have the number one export port in Corpus Christi and the number one gateway to the stars right here in Starbase. I was just at the Port of Brownsville last week, And I was touring it, and we saw the next decade LNG terminal, 55% complete. For those of you that don't know, that project is going to push out 5% of the global energy. That's a big deal. Just two days ago, President Trump released a framework on his great healthcare plan. I am in total agreement with that, and I am the first candidate that has signed the term limits pledge. I've served you for a long time in the Valley. Now I'm building a good stronghold of support in the Oasis, and I'm asking for your vote to lead the entire District 34 back to strong faith, traditional family values, and cultural and economic freedom. Together, let's fight, fight, fight. Thank you very much. The next candidate number 3, Eric Foote. Yes.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you guys for being here. First off, huge shout out to the North Cameron County women who put this together. And thank you to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for allowing us to gather here. What a beautiful day. I wish it was a little less windy for the hair. I'm just kidding, guys. But first off, I want to thank my beautiful wife. I do not give her enough credit. Victoria, please stand up. Thank you for being here by my side, for keeping the home intact and raising our 2 beautiful children. So thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Eric Flores, and I'm seeking office for Congressional District 34. Before I launched early July. A gentleman comes up to me. I guess he had heard through the grapevine I was seeking office. He says, Eric, why politics? Why do you want to be a politician? I was a little confused, and I told him simply, I am a service member. My service to this country started over a decade ago when I raised my right hand to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, when I joined the United States Army. My service actually led me here to the southern border under Operation Guardian Support, which was President Trump's initiative to put more badges back to the border. And there I was one of the first operations officers to do just that, deploying the first 100 to 500 troops, big area. After my service on Operation Guardian Support, I completed over a decade of service in the uniform, leading as a company commander in charge of over 100 troops and $45 million of equipment. Let's give a round of applause to our veterans real quick. After I left the senior company command, my service didn't end there. I raised my hand one more time to become a city attorney for municipalities here in Texas and a municipal judge to make sure that law and order was upheld in our communities. But most importantly, that criminal defendants did not walk around on cashless bail. In 2021, the country called again in a different uniform. The United States Attorney's Office called me to serve as a federal prosecutor, and my mission was quite clear. Financial crimes, drug traffickers, human smugglers, and child predators. Regardless of the auto-pen failed Joe Biden administration, which was hamstringing us every single day, the men and women of Border Patrol, HSI, and FBI stood true to our oath to protect and defend our communities. And we did just that. We locked up Texas's top 10 most wanted child predator. And we dismantled the largest human smuggling organization this district has ever seen. I left the office as a 2-time U.S. Attorney Award winner, HSI 2024 Prosecutor of the Year. I say this to make a very simple and clear point. Results do not stem from slogans. They don't stem from campaigning. They stem from leadership, and they stem from results that are driven by discipline, integrity, and honor. It is this service where I say that I was America first before it became a slogan, where I was putting the country always, always above self. And I'm honored to receive the endorsements of President Donald J. Trump, Speaker Johnson, and one that I am humbled to have is that, and other congressional leaders, and even our own Senator, Adam Yahosa, who's here with us tonight. I'm humbled to have the National Border Patrol Council endorsement, and here is why. When they were abandoned, when they were demonized, and when they were gut punched, I wasn't out anywhere else but in the trench with them, shoulder to shoulder, making sure that they had my full support. And let me tell you, every single one of our investigations led to a 99% acceptance rate and a 99% conviction rate. South Texas doesn't need another career politician. What we need is a battle-tested fighter, somebody who has always stood the watch. And I'll give you an example. The manufacturer of the M41A service rifle doesn't send the marketer, doesn't send the cheerleader to battle, they send the soldier. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much.
I got that.
You guys hear me? I just want to make sure you guys can hear me. All right. My name is Luis Montello, and I am ready to go to Washington to fight for our shared values. I want to share about my story. I see a lot of new faces. Some of you have met me in the past. So I was born and raised in Mexico. And as you can tell, I have an accent. And even though I have an accent, I don't think with an accent. I'm the youngest of 6, and I am a twin. And growing up in Mexico, just with my parents, just gave me that foundation of integrity and hard work. So that's why I'm here. So when I came to the States, I came as a foreign student many decades ago, and I spent 4 years in Harlingen, Texas. As a young kid, I went to Bible Baptist Academy. I don't know if all of you from Harlingen, you know that school? Cynthia. Good. Cynthia, Republicans, thank you for this job. God is watching you Cynthia all the time. So growing up in Mexico, I learned about leadership and courage and values from my parents. So, and that's why I'm here. So I'm gonna just set my priorities that I live by daily. I love God, I love my wife, I love my daughters, and I love my country. And that's why I'm here. And that is in that order. That's the priority of my life, and I live like that daily. So I know that we have still a primary race, even though 3 people are already dropped out of this race. But still, we all have similar values. We share the same conservative values that usually Republicans have. So what makes me different? Why do I stand from the rest of my peers? So it's very simple. I spent 12 years working for Congress. I'm not a Washington insider. I was never in Washington. I was working in the district. I first started in 2011 with Congressman Blake Farrakhan, and I worked for him for 7 years after he resigned on April 6, 2018. Following that, Congressman Cloud got elected, and I continued working for Congress until 2022, when I left Congress to work for a corporate job with Cheniere Energy, who's the largest exporter of LNG in the U.S. So I've seen Congress, I know how Congress works, and I know how to make Congress work for you. During those years in Congress, I deal with a lot of constituents, almost on a daily basis, and I have hundreds and hundreds of them. I help veterans get their benefits. I help senior citizens deal with the bureaucracy of Medicare and Social Security. So I did not learn all these things in a conference room in Washington, D.C. I learned it here. Kitchen tables, talking with constituents, face-to-face, offices, people coming to the office. That's where I learned all these issues and how to deal with them. So I know how to do it. I've done it for 12 years, and this experience matters. I'll be ready in day one. You know, there's not gonna be a learning curve for me, because I did it for 12 years, I run a district, and I'm ready to make sure our district is running day one. There's not gonna be learning as I go, I know I've been doing it for many, many years. So, I've seen Washington, and I've seen behind that curtain, and trust me, Washington is a very dark place. You gotta be very careful when you go there, you gotta ground it in your faith. You gotta be grounded in your faith and your family, because that place will lead you a lot. Your character always is at check. You know, they feed your ego, and if you're not careful, that you will be corrupted. You know, integrity and character matters. And very simple, a very minute thing that I want to tell you about my campaign. Thank you. I have signs in Brownsville, in Corpus Christi. If you go to that property and you talk to the property owner and ask, do Luis ask for permission to put your sign here? They will say yes. You know, there's a property in Brownsville on Public Hill north of Morrison. There's a lot of signs, and I talked to the owner, and he said, you are the first candidate that ever called me to put signs here. You know, and some of my peers have signs there. So watch those things. Character and integrity matters. So my promise to you is this: I will never compromise my values, not for a vote, not for power, and not for anyone. I'm running to restore integrity, to restore trust, and to make sure that values that made this country great are restored in Congress. So I thank you for being here, and I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Hello, Cameron County. I am your former and future congresswoman, and we have some unfinished work to do. In my time in Congress in 22, I'm sure y'all remember that historic win. I became the first Mexican-born congresswoman ever elected in history, and I'm forever grateful to Texas 34 for making that happen, because no matter what happens, that day was historic. And it's part of our history book forever. And you made that happen. I was born in Burgos, Tamaulipas, Mexico. If I could choose where to be born, I would have chosen to be born in America. But I was born in Mexico. Forever grateful to my parents that brought us here to the United States. My dad being an American. So my dad being an American, he was able to bring us here to the United States. He fell in love with my amazing mother from Mexico. And my mom had a very difficult time accepting wanting to come here to the United States. So my dad said, we have to bring our daughters here to the United States, because only in America you can accomplish the American dream for our daughters. So we did it the right way. A lot of people tell me, Myra, if you're from Mexico, how can you support legal immigration? Well, because I want every child that came here to the United States to have the same experience that I did. Why would I support illegal immigration when women and children are being abused and raped? I could never support that. So I always and forever support legal immigration. I believe that if you cross illegally into our country, you should never have path to citizenship. I do not support amnesty. If you come here to the United States illegally, there should never be a path to citizenship. Now, if you come here to the United States and you do it the right way, absolutely. But we cannot reward illegal immigration. I know there's a lot of talks about that, but we cannot do that. That will invite more people to come here to the United States illegally. Last time we had an amnesty was in 1986. And look what happened to California. It turned blue. So I could never support anything like that. Never been involved in politics. I'm a mom of four. I was a migrant worker. I was a server at Pizza Hut. I've done it all. Never been involved in politics. But I saw how South Texas is taken for granted. And so I grew this passion to getting involved. So in 2017, actually it was President Trump that encouraged me and excited me to get involved. So I became a precinct chair, I became a block walker, all volunteer work. See, I didn't get involved until I was in the ballot. See, a lot of people only get involved until they're in the ballot. But you've never seen them before. You've never seen them block walking for other candidates. No. See, I did it for 5 years. I was on the ground, helping President Trump get elected, helping Senator Ted Cruz be better in 2018. See, I was involved way before. They're told us that these positions are not for people like us, that these positions are only for certain people. No disrespect if you're a lawyer, but we have enough of you in Congress. We need more of you. Mothers, teachers, plumbers, police officers, you name it, all of you. Because look how they're running our country. It is time that we run our country. And so when they told me I didn't have the qualifications to run, I ran and I made history. And I remember thinking, how did I get here? But within 24 hours, I was like, how did they get here? That's exactly what I thought. And the reason why a lot of people is like, Myra, but you ran twice. You've lost twice. Let me make that clear to you. I find that so disrespectful, not just towards me, but towards my team. Because when I won the special election, Biden had won that district by 4 points. During my time in Congress, the Texas legislation drew my map and made it a district where Biden had won it by 17 points. Made it 5 times harder for us to win our re-election. But I stood there, I said, we're gonna fight. And we're gonna cut the margin in half if we have to, and then we're gonna keep going as long as we're winning ground. I was supposed to lose by 20 points in 2022. I lost by 8. 2024, I was supposed to lose as well. But I said, as long as we're winning ground, I lost by 2 points. 2 points. Woo! By the way, we lost by $1 million. I won early voting and election day. I lost by the mail-in ballots. Now we're here. We redrew the map. Now it's a Trump 10. Trump won it by 10 points. I have some unfinished work to do. My team, but so do you. None of these candidates put in the work that Team Myra did. I've had all these endorsements, but I have your endorsement, and that's what matters to me the most. Thank you, and God bless you.
Time for round one. And as we go through several topics, 50 to the point, get to it. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer each question. There will be a 1-minute rebuttal. Online, online. And we'll say thank you to Eddie. He's a great timekeeper, by the way. But by the way, it's not true you need to look like Father Time in order to be the timekeeper. There's a lot of wisdom there. That's right. Candidate number 1, very comfortable. Healthcare. What is the federal government's proper role in healthcare delivery and cost?
So thank you for the question. My mic on, just want to make sure. As a matter of fact, the government has taken too much of a role in healthcare, and we see that every single day here in the Rio Grande Valley in South Texas. Some of the highest obesity rates, some of the highest cancer rates, some of the unhealthiest people live in America, unfortunately. And it's because our government has gotten involved in every single thing from prescriptions down to the food that our children eat at school. Just recently, we saw President Trump in bringing back whole milk to school for our children to drink because Mrs. Obama, First Lady Obama, wanted them to drink skim milk instead. And science now shows, science is always changing, that whole milk is better from a nutrient and energy perspective. Now, that being said, talking about women's reproductive rights as well as protecting the unborn, I am ashamed here to say that our next door congresswoman, a Republican, just voted for Obamacare, something that President Trump has come out against, something that fellow Republican, that our Speaker Mike Johnson came out against as well. And she voted with Democrats, stepping in line to support government subsidies as well as taxpayer-funded abortion, which I think is important. So I stand here before you today telling you that we need to get our government out of the healthcare business, and specifically, we need to reduce the benefits that are providing unnutritious food, food stamps, people taking advantage of the system, because healthcare today is not just about going to visit the doctor. It's what you eat, it's how you move, it's what our children eat at school, and we can make sure that our parents, our families, the nuclear family, a mother and father make those decisions, not a government doctor, and certainly not a government in Washington, D.C.
Keith Allen, on healthcare, what is the federal government's proper role in healthcare delivery and equal cost?
I'll agree with my colleague here. I think the government has been too involved. When we just think of, we've been under the Obamacare ACA for so long now, we just had 17 Republicans that have voted with the Democrats for this. When you just think about the magnitude of that, that's an $80 billion cost. And just so everybody knows, those subsidies that went away this last month, those didn't do anything to fix healthcare. All that did is it funneled money to the insurance company, your taxpayer dollars, by the way, funneled those dollars to the insurance companies, and then it masked the real inflation that was being caused by overregulation of the government. I believe, I like the direction President Trump's going with. Let's put the money into health savings accounts, association health plans, which I think most of us know that. We should, for small business owners, farmers, we have a lot of that here. They should have the ability to band together across state lines to purchase where they can compete with the big guys, makes it fair. And then lastly, transparency. We've got to get to a place where we've got transparency in our hospitals, doctor's office, insurance companies. We should know what we're paying before we walk in. And I do think the government has a responsibility to ensure that those things happen broadly.
Eric Flores, on healthcare, what's the federal government's proper role in healthcare delivery and cost control?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to catch off of what my colleague said.
The ACA or Obamacare has quite frankly failed Americans, and yet our Democratic opponent is shifting it on us and saying that we in this administration is trying to strip South Texans of their health care, and that is quite frankly not true. It is blatantly false. The ACA is something that the government cannot just fund. We will run out of money. We cannot do that, and we need to restructure it, and it needs reform. It is broken, and President Trump and Speaker Johnson have made this clear. We don't want to strip anybody of their health care. We want to reform it. We want more competition, because what will that do? That will bring our healthcare prices down. It will have more doctors in our systems. But yet, right now, under the ACA as it stands, it is quite the opposite. It is with the less competition that we are seeing in the markets, we are seeing less people getting the healthcare they need. So we need to fix this broken healthcare system. We need to ensure to protect reproductive rights, and we need to care for our South Texas residents. Thank you.
We'll be doing rebuttals for 1 minute each candidate, after the last candidate has a chance to answer a question for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And 2 minutes for each question, 1 minute to vote. We'll go through everyone. Use one video on the issue of healthcare. What's the federal government's proper role in healthcare delivery and cost control?
Can I say deal? Yeah, honestly. Totally, it's a great question, and yes, ACA, I remember when it hit, it was passed, but it hit government in October 1st, 2014, and he's been next, Congress or the government is not really the best executor of the laws or has the laws to make it more affordable. It is a mess, and I remember my premium when I was in Congress, they went from 275 on my key and my family to 595, just like that. I'm like, I thought it was supposed to be affordable, because the younger you are, you're supposed to be paying less, the older you are, you're supposed to pay more. No, they said that the younger you are, you can live longer, you can pay more, but the older you are, because you have a risk, you pay more. So it is a mess, and it needs to be more affordable, that's for sure. There needs to be more preventive care for everybody, and especially the cost of a drug prescription. I used to live in the border, I used to live around here, so who has gone to Matamoros or Progressive to buy medicine? A lot of us. Why? Because it's way cheaper in Mexico for the same medicine than it is here in the US. That's just wrong. Those corporations are abusing their power. We need to make all of this affordable for the people. And Congress is not doing the right job in making sure that's what is happening. So we need to bring prices down on the cost of healthcare. We are the country with the highest rate of healthcare. We pay more than any other country for services in Medicare, in medication. Drug prices, same thing, and preventive care, come on, we could do better for our constituents to provide early screenings prior to when there's an issue where it's just gonna cost longer and it's gonna cost more for our government to provide services. Thank you.
And my report is on the issue of healthcare, but the federal government's proper role in healthcare delivery isn't cost control.
Well, the reason why we're in this situation is because of a bunch of rhinos. For example, just last week, they mentioned 17 rhinos voted in favor of extending Obamacare. Let's mention their name, let's call them out. Monica de la Cruz and Vicente, both of them. So you're talking about a Democrat and a Republican, both voted the same. I thought we were gonna have different representation in South Texas. So when you have Republicans siding with Democrats, that's the problem. And by the way, these rhinos, half of them are endorsed by the administration. So do not rely on endorsements. Do your research. Affordable Obamacare, it's not affordable. They made it something so nice because they assume that you're not gonna do your research. But when you do your research, it's actually going to make it more expensive. This is why we need strong members of Congress. And in my time in Congress, I voted against all these. Why? Because we need to cap healthcare. These insurance companies, they're out of control. They can increase your costs whenever they want to. We need to put a cap, because it's not right that Americans here in South Texas have to go to Mexico and buy the same medication here, it's $500, but yet in Mexico it's $5. Why? Because we're Americans, they're sending it to us more expensive. We have that control. But I do believe that we need to get the federal government out of our business, out of our healthcare, and everything. Because the more control we give them, the more control they have over our lives. If we give them control to feed us, we're also going to give them control to starve us. Look what happened with food stamps. Oh, the government shut down. If not, we're not going to get our food stamps. We need to stop giving them so much control. And we need to give the people, the American people, back the control. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Well, I would like to begin, going back to Mr. Flores here, talking about voting against Obamacare and the ACA. As it was just mentioned, Monica de la Cruz, right down the road, voted for Obamacare with 17 other Republicans and Democrats. 2 representatives from South Texas voting for that. As a matter of fact, Monica de la Cruz was the first endorsement that Mr. Eric Flores received. So my question to him is, would he vote with Monica de la Cruz for Obamacare when that vote comes back up? And I think the people should know as well. Monica de la Cruz was praised as being pro-life. But is Eric Flores pro-life as well? Would he vote for taxpayer subsidies to pay for abortion? And as a matter of fact, going to his voting record, Mr. Flores is a legal man. The preponderance of evidence would show on his voting record that he would vote Democrat more times than not.
Keith Allen, 1 minute.
That wasn't for me, that was for Eric Flores.
No, sir, the candidates are going for, they're going by the ordinary people. So, the candidates are going to the people. Sit down, everybody. Keep out, good.
I don't understand, I don't have anything about the minute.
All right. Eric Flores, you're the next candidate.
Well, Mr. Cuggo, I appreciate it. There's only one woman on the entire planet who tells me what to do, and that's my wife right there. Now, I understand Mr. Cuggo is playing quite the political gatekeeper here, but let me tell you what my voting record says. President Donald J. Trump disagrees with you. And let me be quite clear, the Democratic Party, this area was historically Democrat, and they abandoned us. And let me tell you, I can never reconcile my faith with the party. They do not believe in what I believe in. I have a 6-year-old daughter. I'm in a man in my daughter's restroom. I am pro-life, protecting the sanctity of life from the beginning of conception. So it's very simple. These are my values. President Donald J. Trump, Speaker Johnson, congressional leaders, National Border Patrol Council know that I have conservative values. Thank you, Mr. Trump.
All I'm gonna say is we need an America First candidate in Congress. My voting record, I don't care about them, focus on me. In my voting record, and in my time in Congress, I voted for you to put this district first. I brought over $200 million to this area in such a small amount of time. I also saw the Zapata family. I don't know if y'all remember Agent Jaime Jorge Zapata, who was killed because of the cartel in Mexico. You know, he was killed in 2011, and the family had not received any funds until I got in office. Filemon Vela didn't get the job done. And within 3 weeks, we were able to get the family, the Zapata family, the funds that they needed. Again, you have to look at our voting record. It matters. Don't focus on endorsements. I've had all these endorsements. By the way, I helped President Trump get elected. I'm the only one in this table that traveled with him to get him elected. And so none of that matters if we focus on facts. So fact check me and look at my voting record. Thank you.
Well, we're off to a spirited start, aren't we? Right? Do we need anybody cut lip, eyelid, big, cut me big? We're good? All right, here we go. Question 2, immigration and border security. And it will be, how should, if you can help us balance border enforcement that's presently being conducted, any humanitarian help that some folks would suggest, and your thoughts, do you approve of the president's enforcement actions? Will you change anything that's been done by the administration? So first candidate to speak will be Gregory Combs. Your great uncle is the first, yeah, great uncle is.
Yeah.
You are number 1. So, where do you want to start? You want to start with Greg? That's right. That's why I just think it. Chess, and I'm sure lots of increase. Okay, actually, you guys. All right, so now we're going to start with with Keith, which second. Okay, so Keith Allen on the issue of immigration and border security. How should the U.S. balance border enforcement and humanitarian help? And your thoughts on the president's enforcement actions? Would you change anything? Go ahead, Keith Allen.
I'll begin with the end in mind. I do agree with the president's actions. That being said, I approach everything from a spiritual standpoint. Most of you know that. But when I think about compassion, compassion starts with a secure border. When we think about what we've gone through, and it wasn't just the last 4 years, although it really escalated, but human trafficking is not compassionate. Sex trafficking, the violations of our laws. Our government has a responsibility to ensure that we do have secure borders. But when you just look at what we've done in the United States, I would say for the last several decades, we have allowed a shadow economy that hasn't been real. That hurts the American worker. So is there some disruption? Yeah, there's going to be some short-term pain. But the truth is, we're either a nation of laws or we're not. I say we are. President Trump says we are. I would also say that anybody that's seen this big, beautiful bill, I will tell you, President Trump did something that I think all of us should have been asking for a long time, and he's put in provisions for merit-based immigration. I think that's the longer-term answer. So yes, he's doing what he needs to do short-term, but long-term, we want folks in. When we think about America in the future, I think he's looking 50 years out. We cannot look at the. I'm hearing you guys back here. I'm sorry. Thank you. We can't continue to just bringing anybody that wants to come into this country. That sounds compassionate, but it's not compassionate to the people that are here. I am also an America First candidate. I believe we take care of America first, and yes, if you got here illegally, you're gonna have to go.
The report is on the issue of immigration and border security. I am the balance of U.S. border enforcement, any humanitarian help, your opinion, your approval of or opposition to the current enforcement action. Would you change anything?
Yeah, I lost my mic. All right, I think we lost the mics up here.
Present your report, just protect.
It's okay, so, if anybody can't hear me, raise your hand, but very simple. Raise your hand.
My check, there we go. So really simple, I support President Trump's immigration initiatives and his enforcement that is going on right now. Let me tell you why. I've seen it under a failed administration where the Otto Penn Joe Biden administration allowed 24 illegal aliens into this country. The way to rectify it is the way that President Trump and congressional leaders are allowing it right now, along with Secretary Noem. It is simple. It is to enforce the laws that are currently in place. Not a single piece of legislation or bill has been passed. He has just allowed Border Patrol, ICE, DHS, and HSI agents to do their jobs. We cannot be a country without borders. I'll give you an example. The first thing you do when you build a house is you build a fence. The administration is currently rectifying that failed administration of allowing 24 illegal aliens into this country. And as President Trump just said earlier today, he is going to ensure that, especially down here in South Texas, that we have the workforce labor that everyone deserves. Thank you.
On the issue of immigration and border security. As the U.S. balance border enforcement with any humanitarian help, and your thoughts on the president's enforcement action would be changing.
Yes, thank you. That's a great question. Let's put something very clear. America is not an anti-immigrant country. We're not. Every year, by statute, we accept and legally accept and welcome 1 million people every year by law. So we're not anti-immigration. We're anti-illegal immigration. That's for sure. You know, humanitarian. Let me tell you about that. You know, I remember back in 2018 when Congressman South Padre in office. I was 17, I think. We took him over to the border, and then we border patrol with, and they told us like 41% of all the children and women that come from South America to the U.S., 41% of them are abused, sexually abused. Children, little girls, little boys, and women. So we gotta think of those things. You know, we just need to enforce our laws. We have our laws in place. If people don't like them, I'm sorry, that's what we have in our books. You know, it is the right to Congress to change it if they want to do so. But right now, we need to enforce what we have in the books and make sure that we secure our border and we admit those that we want in our country. Thank you.
And my report is on the issue of border security immigration. How does our country balance border enforcement? Any help that is provided to immigrants? And do you approve of the president's enforcement action? Would you change anything?
100%. I do support President Trump and the administration's actions. God bless our ICE agents. What an amazing job they're doing, right? I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable what they're going through right now. But that's one of the reasons why I prioritized, getting President Trump back in office. I knew he was going to be the only one that was going to get the job done. We saw here in South Texas, thousands and thousands of people crossed illegally into this country. We're not a nation against illegal immigration. We are against illegal immigration, but we're for legal immigration. And so all of a sudden they're calling all of us here that we're anti-immigrant. We're both born in Mexico. We're not against, we're against illegal immigration. All of us here are for pro-border security. All of us here. But I'm the only one that made sure President Trump got elected, because I understood that he was going to get the job done. What I don't understand, though, is how are these cameras at these people's homes? How do they know that our ICE agents are going to go and pick up these people, which, by the way, all of them have a criminal background? All of them. I just don't know who's alerting them, who is leaking the information. Because I hate the way it's being portrayed on social media, on CNN, on Univision, and Telemundo. They're fear-mongering the Hispanic community. That's right. We don't have anyone, by the way, doing Spanish media. And that is something that I have asked the administration. Because when I'm in Univision and Telemundo, they're telling us that they're deporting Americans, that they're deporting everyone that looks like us, and spreading hate and fear. That is why it's important to have someone on this media as well. Because I don't understand why these cameras are everywhere. Who is alerting them? Because that needs to stop, to protect our agents as well.
On the issue of border security and immigration, how do we balance border enforcement? Any humanitarian help folks would suggest that you approve of the president enforcement action? Would you change anything?
Check 1, 2.
She's still using
It's all right, we're good. Ladies and gentlemen, on the border, there is no other country in the world that is as gracious and giving as the United States of America. And unfortunately, to this day, it has led to problems and issues like we're seeing in Minnesota right now with entire Somali communities. Even here in South Texas, we've been plagued with problems, overburdened by the border. Right here behind us is SpaceX. Packages of cocaine will wash up on the beach because the drug cartels running $1 billion business that are smuggling humans, victims of human trafficking, predators, and rape, underage pregnancies. It's ridiculous. And
Mike.
Check 1, 2, others. Now, on the idea of Border Patrol and protecting our homeland, ladies and gentlemen, you all know Border Patrol, HSI, the people that are here in our community, we see them every day. They are providing jobs for our community. We now have the military down here. I've been calling for the militarization of the U.S.-Mexico border for the last 4 years, and President Trump finally made it happen. And because of that, we are now at a net negative migration here in the United States of America. For possibly the first time in history, more people are leaving than are coming here. And it's a good thing because we have a culture, we have places where we need to respect the history, what we have. That's another thing. We have entire cultures built upon the history of hard work and coming to this country the right way. And that's why it needs to be done the right way. I will never support illegal immigration. If you came here legally, you do need to go back. If you commit a crime, you are subject to deportation. And it's as simple as that, ladies and gentlemen. Now, of course, on the humanitarian side, I am willing to help anything that is in need, and that is what I think the role of our federal government is. But today, unfortunately, there is too much abuse of these programs right here in South Texas. We need to doge them, we need to audit them, we need to make sure, and we need to turn back around what the Biden administration did, including former employees of the Biden administration, did during that time, ladies and gentlemen. And President Trump is doing it, and I will support him along the way.
We get 1 minute for rebuttal if you want to use it. If not, so let's start with our second candidate. We have Keith Allen. 1 minute rebuttal. No rebuttal. Let's go to third candidate, Eric. No rebuttal. No rebuttal. Candidate. Luis Plantea. No rebuttal. Mayra Flores. 1 minute.
Vote for
rebuttal.
Mayra Flores.
Next question. On federal spending. debt reduction, economic growth. How do we achieve debt reduction and economic growth? We start with candidate number 3 on the draw, Eric Flores. Repeat the question really quick. Debt reduction and economic growth. How do we achieve this in Washington?
Absolutely. So first off, Washington needs to have the same principles as South Texas. Each of us here have a balanced budget at home. Yet we've not been able to achieve that in Washington, D.C. It's CR after CR after CR. We need to stop that. And as you can see in some parts of the country, we are having waste, fraud, and abuse. As a former federal prosecutor who's prosecuted hundreds of millions of dollars worth of that waste, fraud, and abuse, that needs to stop. We need to make sure that every single government employee is actually showing up to work, that they're doing the job that the taxpayer is paying them to do. I had a saying when I was a federal prosecutor. When I walked in, it was the height of COVID. Nobody was there working. And people asked, well, Eric, why do you take these cases so personal? Why do you give it so much effort? I said, it's simple. I give 100% of effort because the taxpayer pays 100% of their taxes. We need to have that of our government employees. Those that are not doing it need to be sent home. Thank you.
Luis Puentello, debt reduction, economic growth. How do you achieve that in Washington, D.C.?
There's a lot to do there. Every year our country has a revenue of $4.9 trillion. 4.9. But every year we spend 6.8. Just let that sink in. We're always, every year by year, almost $2 trillion in deficit. That's what is the problem with our country right now. CR after CR. Man, my goodness, I don't know when was the last time that we had those 12 appropriation bills and have a normal passage of those bills. It's been a long time. So the thing is, I was asked this question not long ago. What will you reduce the spending? Well, it's reduce we're spending over our limit. As we do it in our house, and Eric said about that. We have a budget in our home. We cannot just continue spending the way we are because that's unsustainable. At some point, the ship is going to sink. It is time to bring that spending low more, just within our limits. And how do we do that? Education, reduce the permitting time it takes for companies to provide jobs and more energy security in our country. I work for an LNG company, and to get a permit of that magnitude takes several years. And you'll see that with next decade over here. It will take years to get permits. So we need to reduce those permits to start generating jobs and more revenue for our federal government. Thank you.
My vote is debt reduction and economic growth. How do we achieve that in D.C.?
Well, we have to go back to pre-pandemic spending. I don't know if y'all know that, but after COVID, we increased the spending. And we haven't gone back to pre-pandemic spending. We don't have a revenue problem in this country. We have a spending problem in this country. And in my time in Congress, I voted over and over against the CRs and the overspending. We have a Republican majority right now. Why are we spending so much time on these CRs? We ran on all these cuts, yet we're still spending as if we were going through a pandemic. COVID is over. Everyone needs to go back to work. Why are we still spending the same amount of money if we were going through a pandemic? As far as I know, COVID is very rare. I don't see it as often as back in the days. So why can't we do the simple thing of just going back to pre-pandemic spending? We ran on making all these cuts. And the reason why is because, again, we send to Washington a bunch of watered-down Republicans without a backbone. We have a Republican and a Democrat here in South Texas, and they vote very similar. Look at their voting record. What difference does it make? You need to send somebody who actually has a top A+ voting record. So many times they told me, Myra, if you vote for this, you're not gonna win the re-election. Well, I'd rather lose a re-election than vote for something that is going to hurt my community. And that's the person that I am. I'm not here to represent Washington, I'm here to represent you. And that's exactly what you need in Washington. Thank you.
Federal spending issue. Greg Kunkel. Debt reduction and economic growth. How do we achieve that in DC?
1, 2, 3. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, speaking of voting record, I am here to tell you today that I am a lifelong Republican. You can check my voting record. You can fact check that, as a matter of fact. And I'm proud of it as well. You know, President Trump, I think he's doing a great job in office. I love the policies that he has, but I don't agree with him 100% of the time. Nobody should agree with any politician 100% of the time. That they're not a god. That is not who you follow. You need to use your mind, your heart, your soul. And that's what we need to do as Republicans. I'm not only a Republican, I am a conservative. And that means a fiscal conservative as well. And one of the problems with our current squishy GOP in Congress is they are voting for too much spending in Washington, D.C. As a matter of fact, speaking of continuing resolutions are only going on because Congress is not doing their job. It is their job to execute the spending packages that fund our government, that fund our border, that fund our security. And we're spending way too much money on welfare programs. We're spending way too much money on programs like Obamacare, and we need to cut it out and hold our elected representatives accountable. Also, not to mention the fact that down here in South Texas, our Democrat and Republicans are voting for the same in Obamacare spending. We need to make sure that we cut these programs at the federal level, and we need to have people in Congress that are willing to make sure those cuts occur. And again, I have voted for Donald Trump since his first primary against Ted Cruz, and I have voted for him every single time. But he is not making the correct decision because ultimately our government spending affects every single person in this room. Our economy, our taxes, the raise of inflation, that is what is going on. And by decreasing our government spending, we will lower prices for everyone.
Debt reduction and economic growth. How do we achieve that in DC? Keith Allen.
I'm not even gonna try the microphone in the interest of time. I'm gonna be quick because I want to answer the whole question. One, federal spending, I think we all know we just passed the $38.4 trillion debt rate. Here's I'll tell you, I've had years in retail. If I ever ran a store or a market where I had more money going out than I had coming in, guess I wouldn't have been there very long. Number one, first thing you do, you walk into any business, first thing I would do is you do a complete audit. That's what the Doge work was all about. I think it needs to continue. I like it. Just this last week, this was public, but I think I lost the mic again. Just this last week, the Congressional Budget Office identified a $500 billion that was unauthorized spending. Probably don't know where it is. We've got to stop that kind of thing, get our government straight. But then, the second part of that question was, what do we do to grow the economy? And we can just look at a couple of examples that are right down here. I'll start with Corpus Christi. $88 billion was moved out of the LNG. We exported out of Corpus Christi last. I'd rather just shut the microphone off and try and make it out there. Right? 88, can everybody hear me in the back? We exported $88 billion last year out of the port of Corpus Christi. Think about this, it takes an average of 5+ years to get a permit approved. In Brownsville, the next decade I talked about last week or earlier today, that's gonna push out export 5% of the global energy. If it's taking 5, 6, 7, 10 years sometimes to get permits, that crushes the economy. President Trump did just approve a 2-year cap. I want that to be permanent. If we can get permits, we can get get permits done in 2 years. That will grow the economy. And then lastly, I would just say for our small business owners, there was a tax cut, good incentive that they've had for the last couple of years. I say let's make that permanent.
Well, then, rebuttal on this issue, really, Eric Wood. Let's go to, Louis, no, Maya. Craig.
Yes, I would just like to say that voting records matter. And no matter what the candidate says on stage, because they don't know, previous candidates have said the exact same thing. And you need to look at their history to make sure that they will vote with integrity and that people can do what they say they will do. Not just go with the win, not just go and change their vote whenever the opportunity arises. Not even switching your district just because it may be easier for someone else. Integrity, record, voting
Next question. This will be the final question for this round, because the time constraints. This question, and yes, we'll be the first one. On the issue of congressional term limits, where do you stand? Do you think they improve accountability? Do they weaken execution? Go ahead.
All right, that's a great. It's a great question. I think I would support it, but still, we gotta be careful with term limits because it's a double-edged sword. It would weaken accountability. If let's say, I want to give my example of myself. Let's say I'm a member of Congress and I know my last allowed term that you guys give, or allowed, or permit limits allowed, the actual going crazy. There's nothing you guys can do to remove it from office. So that's why, term limits, it's a double-edged sword because there's no more accountability on the last term. Right now, the way it is, our founders gave us a term limit per se every election. Every election, we can tell our representatives, you know what, you're not candidate anymore for us, so we move on from you and we elect someone else. Putting in term limits, you will have to go through a constitutional amendment. That's a process. It's doable. It's possible. You do it under 27 times, but it's hard to get it passed. But then once passed, we got to see the effects of that. So I don't think we need Washington D.C. to tell us when we can remove people from office or when people might kind of like the power race on us every time we go through the ballot box and vote for our elected officials. Thank you.
That's a great perspective, by the way. Good perspective, Luis, but I disagree. I do support term limits. I did sign the term limit pledge, and that's because I work alongside Nancy Pelosi. So when you work alongside these type of people, you're like, how can we get these people out? We need term limits. I just don't understand how someone wants to spend their last days in Congress or in the Senate. And it's time for these people to go home. We need young people, doesn't matter of all ages as well, but we don't need people to be there, 25, 30, 40 years. And so we do need term limits. It's ridiculous. I mean, we have senators that are 90 years old in the Senate. We have members of Congress in 88 in Congress. Look, I work with the elderly. I hope and pray. It's such a privilege, by the way, aging. I hope and pray I get to live 100 years as well. But I love my family. There's no way I'm dying in Congress. So I do give you my word, okay? There's no way. A lot of people think that I accomplished the American dream in Congress. Let me tell you, there is no such thing. Being in Congress is not the American dream. I ran to protect the American dream. So I don't understand why anyone would want to spend the rest of their life in Congress under Senate. So I do support term limits, and it's thanks to Nancy Pelosi.
Yes, sir, Sergio. support term limits, I will be signing the term limit pledge, as well as in Congress, I will try to enact it as a constitutional amendment. Because right now, we have people making service to our country in Congress as a career. In fact, we have people on the stage right now making their candidacy a career, paying themselves over $100,000 a year. Their families paying us with dollars and hard-earned money that Americans are giving to achieve policy and representation. We're taking that instead, and that's why we need to make sure that congressmen are held accountable, that they did not stay too long, that they did not use that as a job, because it is service to our country. That is how I see it. I have a full-time job. I think we should ask everyone on this panel if they actually work, if they do have a job. I have to support my family. We have to provide a budget and stay within that as well. And in Congress, with our government, it should be the same. So I fully support congressional term limits.
I do support term limits. I was actually the first person on this stage to sign the term limits pledge. Our founding fathers never meant for members of Congress, especially the House, to go serve and be there forever. It was take people from the private sector, go serve, go help, and then go back and live your life and live under the laws that you created. If you look at, yes, right? If you look at a $38 trillion debt, I mean, I'm a simple guy. I kind of look at that and say, well, we got a lot of lifetime politicians. They're part of the problem. And then when you just look at the facts, I did a podcast on this not too long ago. 86% of Americans say we support term limits. Sounds like that should be an easy thing. The problem is 86% of Congress does not want term limits. Makes no sense. And if you really ask yourself why, 50% of the members of Congress right now are millionaires. I don't know how many millionaires we have in the room, but guarantee it's not 50%. So what that's become, it's become a place for an elite group of millionaires that are making the laws for us. And then how are they making laws when they can't even relate to us? So I say, give them their 2 terms in the Senate, 3 terms in the House, and then go home.
There's 1 minute. Do you have anything else to say on criminal issues? Eric, sorry. Go ahead. That's why I get for putting it that.
So, my check, pretty simple. I support term limits, full stop. When you join the military or any other government job for that matter, they tell you your mandatory retirement date. And you are there simply to serve and to put the people first. So I support term limits. I don't support anybody past the age of 80 years old in Congress becoming a member of the adult daycare. We don't need that. We need someone to go up there and put the people first. But the reason that many people, as Mr. Allen says, that they want to stay in Congress because they're career politicians. They believe in insider trading. How do we have Congress members and women like Ilhan Omar, where their net worth is $0, but yet she's worth $25 million today? Because insider trading. We need candidates who are going up there to serve the people. That is why I've already pledged to also donate my congressional salary, because it is simple. You all are the reason why I am serving. I've never served in a governmental capacity to make a dime. I don't ask donors to donate to my campaign. I put in a personal investment, and then I go ask them for a stake. And I certainly don't ask donors to donate to my campaign to live off of donor money. Thank you.
And you said 1 minute on this topic, if you wish to take it. Let's go to Ms. Mateo.
All right. Yeah, yes, I do. So, just to clarify things, I do support term limits. What I was saying is we gotta be conscious of the consequences of that. The accountability goes away at some point, especially in that last term. But I totally support term limits. I don't believe in every politician that spent 20, 30 years in Congress. That was not the intent of our founding fathers. You know, I think 12 years in the Senate, that's great. 12 years and a half, that's it. Out. No more than that. That's what I believe. Thank you.
Well, look, I support term limits, but we don't have term limits. So you have that power to decide how long you want these elected members of Congress or local elected officials, you name it, at the state, at the local, at the federal level. You have the power right now. Yes, we support term limits, but we don't have term limits right now. So that is on you. So make sure you go out and vote, because that's the power that you have. You want them out, go vote them out.
I would just say, I would add to what Myra said, yes, everybody has a choice, you can go vote. But let's not kid ourselves. I think everybody in this audience is savvy enough to know that when you have an incumbent, they have a machine behind them. No offense to, and I'm not disrespecting Monica Dela Cruz. I was in District 15. If I had tried to run in District 15, I would have been, if you talk about David and Goliath, female Goliath, that would have been a pretty tough deal, because you have all of Washington behind them. We've got a corrupt system, whether anybody wants to hear it or not. DC wants to pick our choice. They want to pick their congressperson. They're doing it here in this race. No offense, my brother. They're trying to do it in this race. Yeah, I'll tell you
I disagree with you, John. This is not qualifications. Simple as that. I have served this country honorably. I asked for your all's trust. I have earned the trust of many, and it's simple. When I was not running for political office and saying I wanted to run for senator in 15 or doing that, I was locking up the bad guys. And that's
Do not love that. I love that design.
We've got a drawing that we're going to do. Take it out.
So what now? What now?
Okay, listen up. Number 135, 8561. Last number is 8561. Who's got that number? 8561. Okay, go on that side. Just go back. 85. Next number.
No,
Last four digits. 8630. 8630. 8630. 8630. Anybody? All right, here's another number, folks. 8644. 8644. That's four numbers. Only get 8644. All right, last number, 8632. Registration check? Yes. 8644? Yes. We'll call everybody back in.
I'm doing good. How are you? All right, it's good seeing you.
Watching the football game.
Yeah, well, somebody is. I saw it. I said, grab my attention. That's what I'm missing. I wish I was home to watch it.
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody to this part, please keep your seats. Candidates, please make your way. Let's start again. Candidates, make your way up here, please.
Good job. No.
Sorry.
All right, I'll see you guys later.
Bye.
I noticed that actually when I came in and I told everyone.
Fine.
People, and then I.
No worries, no worries.
Keith Allen. Keith Allen. Let round two commence.
Here we go. Here we go, gang. Here we go. First candidate will answer the organization of the will be client, my employee. Everybody, can everybody hear? You guys good? Okay. Now, don't make it sound like a kindergarten people. Let's talk about House committee preferences. If you were sent to Washington, D.C., which committees would you like to work on my report?
Can everybody hear me? Yes. Well, in my time in Congress, I served the Agriculture Committee, and Homeland Security, so I would like to go back to the same committees that I was serving. As a farm worker, myself, it just means a lot to me. None of the members of Congress when I was in that committee, actually did the farm work or were farmers. And I think it's very important. Look, again, we have given the federal government the power to feed us. And whenever we're going through shutdowns, we give them the power to starve us. And I want to change that. Only 2% of our farmers feed America. We actually, pay our farmers not to farm. If we can grow it here, there is no business why we're buying some of these produce across the country or across the world. There's no reason. If we can grow it here, we should grow it here. We talk about energy and prioritizing energy here, the oil and gas. We should also prioritize our food. If we can grow it here, we should do it. And we need to empower our farmers, our ranchers, and that's why I'm very passionate, because I was actually a farm worker, Homeland Security. I live in South Texas. I understand the importance of border security and how it impacted us just a few years ago under the Biden administration when they opened our borders. So I would love to go back to those committees that I served. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. As a matter of fact, I will share similarly. I would like to work on the agriculture committee or the science, space, and technology committee. First of all, I have a background in agriculture. I attended Texas A&M University. I worked on hydrology, natural resource management, remote sensing, and making sure we steward our natural resources here in South Texas. With so many farmers, ranchers growing our food, food priority in America is a national security issue. During COVID, we saw this, shelves going bare. If we have to rely simply on importation, we could possibly starve. So taking care of our farmers is paramount. And right now, our farmers, they don't know if they have enough water for the next crop. They don't know what crop they'll be planting due to market prices. So I applaud President Trump on his tariffs of importing goods, even our shrinkers here along the coast. South Texas is full of such wonderful resources, and I hope to be a steward of them in U.S. Congress. And on science, space, and technology, of course, we have SpaceX. Innovation, things that have never been seen done before. We are going back to the moon. We are going back to Mars. We're right here in South Texas. And you don't know, ladies and gentlemen, there used to be a border control checkpoint on Highway 4 exiting the They actually just got rid of it because of innovative technology and SpaceX. That is actually our borders. We just got 200 million for the Coast Guard to build a new station because even now, this guard and controlling the real very. So with all of this innovation, doing space race, and make no mistake, ladies and gentlemen, it's between China and the United States. Whether it's drones, AI, technology, or one of our technologies, America wants to do. We've done it before, and we will do it.
If you want to go Washington, which committees would you like to work on?
Two choices. One, I think it's pretty obvious that we are no longer just an energy district. We are a global powerhouse. We're the global powerhouse of the United States of America. So first choice would be the House Committee on Energy and Commerce. For those of you not familiar, that is the super committee really that has everything to do with from pipelines to all the technology you have at SpaceX, permitting, all national security, all goes through that committee. I'd love to be there. I think that there's going to be so much federal funds available that somebody sitting in District 34, we shouldn't just be trying to influence people from the outside of that committee. I'd want to sit on that committee. And then my secondary choice is just as important to me, in fact, it's more important to me, is the House Judiciary Committee. And when I say that, there is a group there that is working on abortion, always talking about pro-life issues, adoption issues, all that stuff is very important to me. And I think as a minister, I have a very, very strong point of view. And I also believe I have the ability to influence. I'd like to see us become once again a nation that does honor God, but also knows, many of you know this scripture, cursed is the nation that shed innocent blood. And our babies, our innocent blood, we need to be a nation that truly does celebrate life versus one that's very insensitive to it.
Washington, D.C., Eric Williams, committees would you like to work on, sir?
My grandfather used to have a saying, I'll say it in English, we don't run out of ideas, we run out of money. So the first committee that I will show my name is, that is for appropriations. We need to continue to work hand in hand with Senator and Wholesale Just Champion SB 1169 so that we are no longer being reactive to our water issues. Water is a lifeline for District 34, from Cameron County all the way to Corpus Christi. We need more funding for water, whether it's for desal, brackish desal, marine desal, protecting our groundwater projects, our reservoir projects. So we need to bring more money for South Texas, especially for infrastructure. The second committee that I'd like to serve on is something that I say, not from a soundbite, not from anything else I've read, Homeland Security. I'm the only candidate up here with actual experience when it comes to the border. I have served on it twice as a soldier on Operation Guardian Support, as well as a prosecutor. The other candidate who had extensive experience on border security dropped out and endorsed myself. I'm also honored to have the National Border Patrol Council endorsement because I have served with them in the trench. I know the policies that need to be changed to empower our men and women in law enforcement, especially our prosecutors, so that the illegal aliens coming into this country can be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Thank you.
All right, yes, for me, it's, so people don't understand the different committees in Congress, A committees, B committees, C committees, so that plays a role in everything, how many committees you can be on. If you're on a committee, usually you only have that committee. You can no longer be in a different committee unless you have for a special dispensation to be in a different committee, and appropriations is an A committee, energy and commerce is an A committee. So, yeah, because it's a heavy workload. So, if elected, I like to be on energy and commerce committee. You know, we have a lot of energy in our district. In Corpus, we have a lot of refineries, and now here in South Padre, we're not going to be South Padre, Brownsville. We're building an LNG facility, which is Rio Grande. No, that's it. LNG. So I think that would be one of the committees I would like to. I'd be interested in. The second committee that I'd be interested in would be Armed Services Committee. In our district, we have two military bases in Corpus Christi and Kingsville. They need to have attention. We need to advocate for them and make sure they are protected and secure, because those are a big engine generation for jobs in those communities. So, third one, Homeland Security. You know, our district is a border town, and we want to make sure that our border is always secure, and we're protecting our men, women serving our not only military on the border, but also our border patrol and customs and border protection.
Any quick question for the candidates? Show of hands. Do we have unanimous consent to move to the final question for this round, or does somebody want to say something? We're good? We're going to election. Here we go. Final question for this round. And if we go back to this Greg, you get the first one answer. How does America achieve energy independence, and your thoughts on protecting District 34's unique coastal environment?
This is one of my favorite questions, Sergio. As a matter of fact, as it's been stated before, from the Port of Brownsville up to Port of Corpus Christi, we have 80% of LNG and energy being exported here. But it is a balance, ladies and gentlemen. You were here at South Padre Island today. I know we have constituents that love this coast. I call it the Laguna Madre District because Corpus Christi, Nueces, Kennedy, Clayburgh, Willacy, and Cameron, we all share this beautiful body of water. Many of you, like myself, I fish these waters. I hunt these lands. So balancing energy, desal, and new technology with our coastal pristine environment is a big deal. And you need someone with the experience, the knowledge, and the background to do that. I actually have that, ladies and gentlemen. I would argue I'm the only one on this stage that does. And don't get me wrong, the border is very important, but Donald Trump has shut down our border. We are at a net negative migration. It is time to now look at the benefits for South Texas and our people, because we have been long forgotten here in South Texas by our current Congressman and Democrat, Mr. Gonzalez. And in Washington, D.C., ladies and gentlemen, new energy, something we need to look at, increasing our LNG exports, just like we have right down the road, but also new technology like new nuclear. The U.S. Army is using these same systems to power their grid and their Army bases, and we can add them to our grid as well. We have these windmills that are leaking hydraulic fluid all over the place. Small modular reactors is a new technology that you'll hear about soon. And then we can also use it to power desal. Just like it was mentioned earlier, desal is also a fickle issue because it affects our waters, and we need someone with the experience that understands the balance of new technology, exports and energy, as well as protecting our Texas coast.
Chief Allen, how does America achieve energy independence? Your thoughts on protecting District 34's unique coastal environment?
Am I on? Okay. I'll state what I said earlier. Number one, I think we ensure that the 2-year cap on permitting is in place, so we're ending the permit purgatory, if you will. But I also think we've got to look, and I think Greg was kind of alluding to this, there's a whole lot of LNG, there's a whole lot of oil, there's a whole lot of energy going out of District 34. But we also have to understand it all shuts down when water shuts down. We've got water issues on both sides of it, on both ends. And it's a little bit different. I mean, we have the water issue down here around the Mexico really living up to the 1948 treaty. We've got a lot of work to do there. I think we should tie that water to international trade. No water, no free trade. And I think it needs to be on a rhythm where we can count on it. They owe us right now 900,000 acre feet. They're way behind, so yes, they said we're going to give you 200,000, but that needs to be a rhythm. And then up north, it's a whole lot different issue. We can't drill our way out of it. There's so much growth up there. We can't just drill and pull water out of the ground, and that's going to be enough. It's not going to do it with the amount of industry we have. So yes, we're going to have to have desals, and probably more than one desal plant. More than one desal plant, and I believe that there's going to be an opportunity over this next year to work with Senator Congressman Michael Cloud out of District 27, where we can actually have a multi-district solution, so that it's a long-term solution for water versus just one. We need a solution that doesn't just fix it for Nueces. It's got to fix it for Nueces. We should be looking at how does that affect San Antonio, District 15, as well as District 27. I think I would like to work towards that, and I think that's what the answer is going to be.
Eric Funes, how does America achieve energy independence? Your thoughts on protecting District 34's unique coastal environment?
Look, I think the administration is already doing a great job. Drill, baby, drill, and deregulate a lot of these permitting issues that LNG next decade projects are already facing. Up in the Port of Corpus Christi, which is actually part of Congressman Cloud's district, they are number 1 in crude oil export and number 2 in liquid natural gas, or LNG. But what people need to remember is that they depend on water. If we do not address our water problems right now, we need to stop being reactive and we need to start being proactive. Those companies up there at the Port of Corpus Christi, as well as the Port of Brownsville, we depend on water. In order to have energy independence, we need to make sure that we have water so that these refineries can continue to do what they do. Again, the permitting process is taking too long, as some of my colleagues have already said. And as well with energy independence, we do not need China, we do not need Russia in the Western Hemisphere competing with the United States. That is why I support President Trump's initiative in Venezuela. They were over there creeping into the Western Hemisphere, and we said no. Thank you, guys.
Luis Pompeo, how does America achieve energy independence? And your thoughts on protecting District 34's unique coastal environment?
Thank you. Yes, so yes, definitely. Drill, baby, drill. That's the answer. And I think the administration has been doing a great job, but I think what's getting in the way is always our government. Permitting takes too long. Ask refineries, ask LNG facilities. The permitting takes forever. And that's just revenue loss, jobs lost, jobs that are not operating until that permit passes. So we need to make sure the permitting process is revamped and make sure there's a cap and time limits on that. So the other, the second part of your question?
Yes, your thoughts on protecting District 34's unique coastal environment.
Thank you. So I worked in industry for almost 3 years, and I can tell you, and I can assure you, the amount of oversight that they have is insane. the reporting that they do on a monthly basis is insane. They're always protecting the environment. I can speak only about Chenier. You know, they're constantly doing reporting on emissions. They're constantly making sure that nothing gets on the water, because one drop of something gets in the water, it has to be reported within 24 hours. So trust me, when I tell industry protects the environment, they do. We need to make sure that as we reduce the permit, or as we try to reduce the permitting timelines, that we make sure that the protection for the environment stays the same, or we can increase it, because our environment is unique, and we've got to make sure that environment is always protected. Thank you.
Of course, your thoughts on how America can achieve energy independence, and your thoughts on protecting District 34 and its unique social environment.
Well, I agree with my colleagues, Drew here in Texas, and President Trump is doing an amazing job. But for a long time, Democrats have said that Republicans don't care about the environment. And we do, we care about the environment. How many of you, though, have been to Galveston Beach? Would you want our beach to look like Galveston? No. I do not want South Padre Island looking like Galveston. So we do need to make sure that they're taking the right steps to protect our beach, because it's our South Padre Island. This is where we take our family. Many of us, that's where we go on vacation. This is our home. So I do not want to see South Padre Island in a few years looking like Galveston. So we do need to make sure that these people are taking the right steps to protect our beach. We can be Republicans, we can be conservatives, and also care about the environment, because this is our home. This is where our heart is. So we do need to prioritize it. But President Trump is doing a great job when it comes to energy. But we do need to take better care of our environment, because I do not want to see South Padre Island looking like Galveston. So I will hold them accountable for that.
If you'd like to take it, yes, no, raise your hand. Okay, we will pass. That concludes round 2 of Bellamy. There we go.
Ooh, knockout. Well, I do
Ticket number 1358576.
I found out about when I was in college, and I did volunteer work in Canada.
Ticket number 1358645. 8645. One 1358492. Got it? Once again, 1358492.
Candidates, if you do win, you do need to report this on the next
One 1358490.
Back here.
So that's business there. Ladies and gentlemen, round 3. One final question. By the way, I've got a stack of forms over here. The unofficial exit poll. Be sure to grab one of these. We'll pass them out. We'll pass them out here shortly. We got choose who you thought was the winner of the conversation. Which, by the way, in this round will be this question.
and then, open up for a minute, you guys have something to say, and then your final thought, your final, appeal to the office. Here we go. On the issue which was brought up earlier, insider trading. So, how do we fix the problem of politicians in Washington having insider information and trading on Wall Street? Your thoughts? Speak out.
Can you hear me now? There was actually a law passed, a law, name of it, insider trade. It was actually the Stop Insider Trading Act. It didn't go far enough, so it's the one that's on the books. But what it does allow is any member of Congress that goes in, they can't buy new stock, but they get to hang on to what they do have. The problem with that is they're still making decisions that impact those dollars. That's why you have so many rich folks in Congress. That's one of the reasons. There is another act out there, it hasn't gone through yet, and I think most of us have heard about it, the Pelosi Act, which is actually really, really tough. I like that law. That actually doesn't just make them put it in a blank trust or anything. They have to divest of any stocks they have. That way we know the decisions they are making, they're making based on the betterment of the district we're in, the country we're in, versus their own pocketbooks. So until we get something that strong, I don't think it will ever stop. And there's always loopholes. I mean, the law that the Pelosi Act also includes the person and their spouse. But we all know there's children, there's all kinds of things that can happen. I think that the Pelosi Act would be a good start. I think we can go further than that.
Eric, what is it? On the issue of insider trading, how to solve the issue of Congress people using insider control and trading on Wall Street?
Yeah, absolutely. I am fully supportive of stopping insider trading in Congress. As I said before, I've never served in any sort of governmental position in the military where your net worth increases. I agree with Mr. Allen, we should take it a step further and make it stronger. Our leaders of Congress and any echelon of government should be there to serve the people. I will take it a step further, along with PFDs, our personal financial disclosures, need to be exact. Again, coming back to Mr. Allen, is closing those loopholes. If you look at our state leaders, they make pennies on the dollar a month. Senator Hinojosa knows that firsthand. I think he makes $675 a month. Therefore, I want to take it further. I want to take it to the campaign finance laws to ensure that candidates do not draw a salary while being a candidate. They should be running for office to serve the people. Thank you.
And Dale, how do we solve the issue of Congress people using insider information, trading on Wall Street?
There's a lot to be done, and one of them is a blackout period. And when I was sitting here, your employees, they get some stock options with the company every year. So every time there was a report, every quarter there's a report that you have, the company submits, we have a blackout period where we cannot trade anything of our shares, either buy or sell. Congress doesn't abide by the same rules that they apply to all other entities and they apply to citizens in this country. We need to have Congress FOIA doesn't apply to Congress. We gotta make sure that the Freedom of Information Act also applies to members of Congress. There's a lot to be done when it comes to keeping members of Congress accountable. They make their seat or their office as a trading post now. I don't believe how Nancy Pelosi being in Congress, 37 years with a salary, beginning in 2009, is $174,000. She was a speaker, she was making $223 a year. Now she worked over $150 million. That's insane. We cannot have that. You guys deserve better representatives in Congress that are always, and it goes back to what I said earlier. It's about character and integrity. Look at the heart of the people. That's what it is. No matter what it is, no matter how many rules, they always find ways to get corrupted and reach themselves with a handy for anything else. Thank you.
Sir.
we all agree here, all my colleagues agree, we're all against it. You know, we're mentioning Nancy Pelosi, but we have our own as well doing insider trading. In Crenshaw, Congressman, here in Texas, also involved in it. And I named them by the name because this isn't a Republican or Democrat. Both are doing it. And that is why it's so difficult for us to get anything across. When you have our side also being a part of the problem. We're all against it. The problem is that we keep sending people that are doing it. So to the American people, stop electing people that are doing insider trading. Because it's never gonna pass in Congress because they're against it. And yet these same people wanna dictate who we elect in Congress? No. Because for so far, for too long, they've been doing this on both sides. We keep mentioning Nancy Pelosi, but lots of members on our side are also involved in insider trading. That's why I'm very proud of Ana Paulina in Florida pushing this, and she's having a very hard time. Why? Because there's people in our party against it as well. We will not stop this until we, the American people, stop electing people doing insider trading in our own party. And that is why primaries matter. It's in our power to elect the right people. Do not allow Washington to dictate who your member of Congress is. Thank you.
You know, the Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil. And unfortunately, there's too much money in politics today. You know, we have candidates that are paying themselves with donor money. Some of these people in the Rio Grande Valley donating, I don't care if it's 1, 25 cents, $5, it could be some of their last ones, and it's unacceptable. As well, we have insider trading for people in Congress that know businesses, the changes of laws, and they are making a buck and a dime when they are supposed to be serving their constituents in the United States of America. And then too, even now in District 34, people are trying to buy our district, buy your vote, coming from out of the district. Two candidates, as a matter of fact, coming from out of town with their money, out of town money as well, trying to buy your representation, and you should know that. So I think not only should we pass laws against campaign reform, insider trading, paying yourself as a candidate, but I think we should also pass a law that states you need to live in the district you are running in, as well as live there when you're a representative. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, we must always hold our politicians accountable, Republican or Democrat. Insider trading is not allowable. They should be convicted. We need constitutional reform, and I thank you for the time.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give just 1 minute for final thought, not the final thought, but just 1 minute for final one on this issue. We're opening up the microphone now. We'll open up the microphones for 5 questions from the public. I'm not, yeah, we will, just a second. So we'll rebut. We'll do 5 questions, and then the final thought for 1 minute from all of you. Okay? I'm not my dad. I don't have eyes behind my head. So, you guys, if anybody has any questions, come up to the microphone. Only 5 individuals, keep it short. Each candidate 1 minute to answer the question. Please say who you are, identify yourself, and go ahead and ask your question.
My name is Barbara Creighton, and I'd like everybody to answer this question. Should President Trump implement insurrection?
This is what I will do. I'll keep it simple. From this way. Greg, you first.
Yes, I do believe President Trump should use his vested powers as the commander-in-chief.
Keith Allen. Eric Close.
Yeah, I think, Mr. Morris said something right on point. You have people notifying people that their federal agents are coming, therefore they are colluding against the government. So yes, for the Insurrection Act, we need to take it a step further. While we look at these videos that we've seen on Instagram, TikTok, CNN, anywhere else, they are assaulting federal officers at the Title 8 Section 111 violation. Need to be prosecuted to the extent of the law. If you lay a hand on a federal agent, he needs to be known, you will go to the Bureau of Prisons.
Amen. Yes, no, I agree. We should do that. That person comes to invoke it and protect our agents on the streets. It's being, things are getting out of control, and I'm afraid if we don't do something about it, we could find ourselves in a civil war pretty soon.
My apologies.
But it doesn't just stop. You know, we see our agents constantly attacked, but look at the way the media is portrayed. Over 2 days, they told us that, you know, an ICE agent killed a mother. For 2 days. And then by the third day, we saw, you know, it matters the way we see these videos. Now, all of a sudden, we see that she actually tried to run over the agent. It was a self-defense. But how did these people know they were there? That needs to stop. It's not only, it's putting them in danger. You know, Congressman Vicente Gonzalez introduced a bill that agents have to expose their faces. He was warning that during COVID, but all of a sudden, you know, he's telling our ICE agents that they have to remove their masks. But he was sending us to put a mask on during COVID. Why? He would put them in danger, not just them, but their families, their children. Because if somebody recognizes them, they're gonna go to their home.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
Right.
Yes, my name is Jacques Royal. I'm gonna give you real quick. We'll come back in the word, okay, my in the word. I wasn't asking another question, but I just, if I can. I understand both sides of the but only two of us can understand ROE. Where does ROE, when it comes to ICE, stand with in the public?
Let's go to the same one. Just be great. Okay. Right.
Those are the issues.
Okay, yes, I believe that ICE should be following the federal rules of engagement that are set by our government, by our federal officials in the US Congress. And we need to hold ICE and our federal agencies accountable. If those rules and regulations are broken, just like they may say on the battlefield, they should be held accountable. With today's cell phone technology, with the amount of people visiting, we have a public depiction of the things that are going in almost real time, especially thanks to people like Elon Musk and SpaceX, where we have real-time video of people showing us. So I believe everyone, Republican, Democrat, civilian, or federal officials should hold the same standard in government.
We're gonna keep this moving on because ROE, I was thinking MRE, you already need. We're almost out. We'll be done here pretty soon. All right. Key, your thoughts, what?
I won't repeat everything everybody else has said. I'll just add, the problem seems to be, it's not just that, yes, they should follow rules of engagement, but when you look at why they're even engaging at all, we do have a constitutional amendment that says we allow for peaceful assembly. The problem is, it's not peaceful. So when it's not peaceful, the officers, the agents are doing what they need to do, and we absolutely have a media that's working against them. So yes, we should follow the rules of engagement, but I also think we should be quicker with shutting down assemblies that are not peaceful.
I'll ask the next person from the audience to come to the microphone. Be ready with your question. Rules of engagement, Eric Bush. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm gonna respond, and I'm not gonna hold this against my colleagues, but we both know rules of engagement for offensive operations. That's not what we are doing. We're doing lawful enforcement operations in response to letting in 24 illegal aliens into this country. They follow rules of de-escalation to the T. This lady was there disrupting lawful enforcement operations since the morning, but the mainstream media will not tell you that, right? If you look at the video, that short segment, they gave a verbal warning. They said, please leave the area. We are here conducting law enforcement operations, legal ones, yet she weaponized her vehicle. And if there is one angle where they hit the ICE agent, at this point, it is a direct threat to life to the ICE agents. Every single rule of de-escalation was followed. I have investigated officer involved shootings. That is a good shoot. He was well within the parameters to protect himself.
All right, definitely, we should implement that, and you gotta understand something, you know, these ICE agents and DHS agents, they're humans, but the media is portraying them that they're not. All of them are humans, just as the person on the other side,
is disrupting their operations. You know, they're humans too, but at the same time, ICEs are humans. They want to go back home to their families. And the fact that there's a car trying to ram me and probably take my life, I don't know their intent. They're trying to escape. I don't know, but I'm in the way or they're about to hit me. I need to react and protect myself as well because at the end of the day, just like them, everybody wants to go home.
Madam Flores, rules of engagement. Go ahead.
So this agent had internal bleeding. Sorry. This agent actually had internal bleeding, but the media is not telling it. But I put the blame on the media and members of Congress in the Democratic Party. They're instilling violence. That's what they're doing, and that's why all these people are attacking our ICE agents. And we as members of Congress, we have a responsibility to bring peace to this country, and that's not what they want. See, the Democratic Party wants chaos. They love division. They don't even want us to talk to our neighbors. I encourage you to talk to your neighbors, regardless of their political affiliation. And you might be surprised that you actually agree maybe on something. They want us divided, because a nation that is divided is weak. The Democratic Party isn't for America. They're for America last. They're for themselves and someone else. So God bless our ICE agents, and we need to continue supporting them.
Your question for the audience is your name, who are you, and quick question. Go ahead.
This is for Eric Flores. Did you work with the Biden DOJ?
I think this is super important. My opponents have used this. I was never what they call a political appointee, right? I served alongside millions of Americans, whether that is under the Obama administration, the Bush administration, the Trump administration. We were there to do our jobs. Biden DOJ is for somebody who is a political appointee. I'm what you call a career prosecutor. And despite the auto-pen Joe Biden failed administration, we did our jobs. We locked up Texas' top 10 most wanted child predator and dismantled the largest human smuggling organization here. If I was true Biden DOJ is weaponized against President Trump, I certainly would have gotten his endorsement. I'll take it a step further. I was actually one of President Trump's finalists to serve as the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Texas. So let me tell you why I decided to run for Congress. Because we don't need punchline candidates. We don't need career candidates. We need service members.
Each candidate will have 1 minute on this one issue directed to their employees. Then we'll go from right to left. Greg.
I commend my colleague for his service in the country, and it is the fact that he worked for the Biden administration. But one thing he does not like to talk about that the Democrats will use in this election is his current profession. And it is true, he is a lawyer. And right now, he talks about locking up child predators along the U.S.-Mexico border during his time of service. But right now also, and you can fact check it, he is defending a child predator in Edinburgh, Texas, a coach that made a student work out in the nude. As well as a lawyer, his current profession, he is suing my church in the County as well. We cannot have a case law against that. I have fought to save churches. Right down the road on the Chapel of the Sea, Eddie Trevino, the judge in Cameron County, was trying to close that church. Up here, we have candidates that are suing churches. So I ask you again, ladies and gentlemen, to make sure to look at the record, look at their history. The past is the past, but make sure you know who your candidates are today.
I too will commend my colleague for his service. I'll take just a moment though to talk about the endorsements because that came up. Here's what I would say. I talked to a lot of people across the district. District 34 is a large district right now. And the general consensus is we don't want Austin, we don't want Washington, D.C. choosing who our candidate is. That's right. We love President Trump, but that doesn't mean he gets to decide who our candidate is. Number two, when I joined this race, I was actually told by somebody, I think they're in this room, and I'll just tell you, when I switched to District 34, I was told, hey, you shouldn't run for that because there is a man that's going to be joining, and he's got Washington behind him, he's got the establishment behind him, he's got the money behind him, and I said, too bad I'm running anyway. So all I would say is, President Trump, I love him. He's endorsed Myra, no disrespect. He has endorsed her twice, and guess what? We still have Vicente Gonzalez. That's what I think of endorsements.
All candidates will have one final minute at the end. You know, to address anything, everything, whatever you wish to address. So we'll close out this segment, keep on with the public questions, and then go to the final minute from each one of the candidates. But they don't go ahead. Right.
So I'm going to be very clear about this. You know, I'm going to have to say what I have to say about this specific issue because I believe in integrity and character. My team tried to push that with me. Hey, he worked for the. He was appointed by Biden. No, he wasn't. I defended that, and I'm not trying to defend it. And I'm just going to speak on his behalf. He was not appointed by Trump, by Biden. You know, that's a fact. You know, even if I lose votes because of that, it doesn't matter. I need to be clear about this. I need to defend what is right and where things stand. He was an employee. He was an employee of the Justice Department. Just like a lot of people work for different federal agencies. That's the case. You know, the appointee was a guy from his Indian descent. He was in Houston, extreme liberal, and he was more like himself. I know that for a fact. So just to attack him because he worked under administration, yeah. You know, but it doesn't mean that he was appointed by Biden. That's what I'm going to have to say about that.
Well, you couldn't pay me $1 million, I don't know, to work with the administration, with the Biden administration. It's just not worth it. And the Biden DOJ was the worst DOJ ever in history. I mean, President Trump in prison. And in my time in Congress, I worked against the Biden DOJ. We're in the mess that we're in with the massive deportations because of the Biden administration, because of the Biden DOJ not prosecuting criminals. So we're in this position because of that administration. So yeah, it doesn't matter what position I would be in, there's just no way I could have ever done any work for the Biden administration.
Question from the audience, question number 4. Identify yourself, what is your question?
Sarah Jo Reynolds. Endorsements don't vote in Congress, people do. So what specific bill or policy are you going to lead in your first year? And who do you know that you need to work with in order to ensure its success?
From right to left, Gregory.
I'm gonna lead a bill in bringing water to South Texas. In my opinion, that is the most critical thing we need, from holding Mexico accountable to our farmers, to LNG in Corpus Christi. And I think it's a turnkey issue that both Republicans and Democrats can work together on. Even a Republican that votes with Democrats in the county next door, in making sure that we provide water to the future of our people. Our children, their children, we need it economically, we need it for industry, and I will work to bring water to the people day one, because it is a very easy thing to accomplish for the people.
I'm going to ask the last person to ask the question, come back to the microphone, just in case you need to repeat the question. Write it down. Keith, go ahead.
I'm not going to say that I will go and put a federal ban on abortion. Here's how I would attack the issue, and I think it is very, very important that as a nation, we celebrate life. Our 14th Amendment does say we are guaranteed life and liberty. I would approach it from that standpoint. Children, babies, whether they're 2 seconds in the womb or 9 months in the womb, they are people and they are due the due process as much as anybody else in this room. That's how I would attack it, and it would be something that I would. Some people want to back away from federal ban on abortion. The truth is we don't have a federal ban on murder, but I'll tell you what, if you go to any state, guess what? You commit murder, you go to jail. All I'd say is When it comes to abortion, we've got to approach this with much more compassion. There are young people, young women that are they're scared. But we can, as a nation, we can begin to remove this desensitizing that we've had around babies.
All right, I'll ask for audience to repeat your question one more time, and then we're at work.
What specific bill or policy would you lead in your first year, and who would you need to work with in order to ensure its success?
Great question. Thank you for that. So the first bill that I personally want to champion is something near and dear to my heart, and that is the care for veterans. The person that I would work with is going to be Commander or Congressman Jake Elzy. The president of the VFW said it the best. When you raise your hand, you are signing a contract to the United States to serve this country honorably. Us as Americans, we need to remember that it also extends after they stop serving. We need to also honor our contract for care. We need to make sure that our veterans have access to good health care and not be lost in this minutia of the system that we have in the VA. It has gotten much better, but that is the first piece of legislation I want to champion, is to take care of our veterans. Nueces County is number 13 out of 254. Cameron County also has a very dense population, ranking top 20 out of the 254 counties. That is a piece of legislation. Thanks.
I think one of the first bills that I like to present, and I know it's not going to be popular at all. It's incumbents. They don't get money from government. Usually whenever an incumbent is, you have an RCC or a Democratic Party flooding money to the incumbent. That's not fair advantage to other candidates going along. You have fair advantage against the incumbent. So I would probably present that bill. Even if I get elected, even if I get smeared at some point in the future, hey, it's what's right to do for our country. I think America, it's a great country, and anybody in this country is allowed to run, but there's always a fair advantage against an incumbent because of the money that the party flows to the candidate. So who would I work in Congress? With those that are like-minded. I know personally Congressman Cloud. I work for him. He's a brother. He's in Christ. He's a strong Christian. So that's our connection that I already have with him. And he's always held us in three connections with Congressman.
This one is very important for me. This question is actually very important for me. In 2022, I introduced a bill called the RTP Act, and y'all can actually do your research. And this bill meant a lot to me after the Uvalde shooting. We protect our federal buildings, we protect our banks. Most of us here have children, grandchildren. We are nothing without them. All these things are great, but my motor, what drives me every day is my children. If something happened to them, I would go crazy. I have so much respect for all these parents that lost their children because of these shootings. I cannot comprehend what it's like to live your life without your child. So I was very inspired, and I introduced the RGB Act, but Nancy Pelosi did not allow me to put it to the floor. So the first thing I'm going to do is put in the floor the RGB Act, and it's billions and billions of dollars for all our schools to making sure our children are safe. Because at the end of the day, that's what matters the most.
All right, closing minute for each candidate. You have 1 minute. This will be the. Sorry. Like I said, final question for the audience. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. My name is Isaac Amani Newman. I'm basically America first, right? I think we all prefer to have the money and the jobs flowing into the United States. My question is in regards to the United States sending foreign aid and assistance to other countries. Where exactly would you draw the line, and how much we're helping other nations and states versus our own people?
I think it's just like you said, great question. America first is the answer. I don't care if it's Israel. I don't care if it's Zimbabwe. I don't care if it's China or Taiwan. America must always take precedence in our resources. The government doesn't make any money. It's taxation. Every dollar that we send away is a dollar from someone's pocketbook here. It's a dollar from profits from business that's being conducted. And we need to make sure that we always put America first. There are candidates on the stage that are taking money from Perhaps, and out of town, talk about money influencing on the global perspective. And here locally, we have money from out of the state, out of the district, coming to this race from Washington, D.C. and beyond, influencing this race. I don't think it's fair, but I would certainly always work to make sure that any decision I make financially will put America first, and that we never compromise our values, compromise our trust, and I believe in help when it's certainly needed, a people or a culture war, but America must always be first.
Isaac, great question. I'll put it as simply as I can. I believe when it comes to foreign policy, money going to other countries, I believe we should always look at this through an America First lens, which would be strategic alliances that are transactional. I said during when there was the $200 billion conversation all over the media around Ukraine, what was going through my mind and out my mouth was, well, if we've given them $200 billion, they owe us $200 billion. I think that's right. I think that's where I think that's where our nation should be. And I agree with my colleague on Israel. There's people that are pro-Israel, anti-Israel. From a Christian perspective, I believe America should always stand with Israel. At the same time, there's got to be checks and balances. We've had bad leaders in our country. What if they have a bad leader? So I think we always keep it sharp, but I believe strategic alliances that are transactional, that's an America First now. Sure, go ahead.
Thank you for the question. Great question. So look, America first. We need to keep the funding here for America. We need to fix our own problems. As my colleague said, look, I support the state of Israel 100%. They are allies. We should defend them. But again, there needs to be some checks and balances when it comes to that. We cannot just be sending blank checks to these other countries. Ukraine, Israel, all these other countries. There needs to be a checks and balances. I've seen fraud, waste, and abuse firsthand. Let's fix our problems first. Let's put more money in your pocket. Let's lower our gas prices. Let's have affordable housing. Then we can worry about other people. So America first. Let's keep it here.
Yes, thank you. That's a great question. And I have a difference in views on that. I think we should invest or give foreign aid where it makes, where we have national interest on our national security. That's the intent of that foreign aid. We gave one to Kazakhstan. I'm going to give you an example of that. And when the Afghanistan war started, where did we have a place to land our planes? Kazakhstan. Why? Because we've been given them foreign aid. So that's the scope or how we should look at this. We need to invest in different countries for our advantage at some point in the future. And a concern that I have right now is with Africa, the continent of Africa. China has built 46 ports out of the 54 countries that we have in Africa. So where are we going? If ever we have to do something in Africa, where are we going to put our ships? Where are we sending our equipment? China's not going to let us use our ports. So we need to be strategic how we invest overseas just to make sure our national interests are always protected.
Thank you. When I say America first, I mean it. All of us here, we all pay our bills first, right? You don't pay your neighbor's bills. You pay your bills first. We are $35 trillion in debt. And our children and our grandchildren don't deserve that. We owe it to them. And the reason why is because we're sending billions and billions and billions of dollars abroad. We just don't have the luxury to do that. We're on a budget right now because of how high the cost of living is. It is time that we put Washington in a budget. We just do not have the luxury to be sending billions and billions of dollars. Just like you don't have the luxury to be paying your neighbor's bills. I know we want to help our neighbors, but it is time that we put America first. And it's not right when we're sending billions and billions of dollars abroad and our people are living paycheck to paycheck. And that is the reason why, in my time of Congress, I voted against funding for Ukraine. Thank you.
1 minute left to speak to you. I'm gonna self-serve now, just like 15 seconds. I want to see a show of hands. How many y'all, and I want to see your hands, how many y'all listen to 710 KURB?
What?
Oh, what do we think about it? No, how many of you?
710 KURB radio, KURB.com. That was the line that was on me. Thank you. I want to say thank you. Thank you for all the show content. Oh my goodness, and the candidates, all of y'all are welcome to join us. Join me, or Davis, or Zach. KURB radio, the one and only media radio station in the valley that is conservative and speaks liberty all the time. We have discovered 7:10 a.m. on your radio dial. Thank you for helping for having us here. Each candidate, one final minute, hey, where we go? Hopefully, you can do it in 3 minutes. Gregory, final minute. No, 1 minute. Just use time for that.
Ladies and gentlemen, this race is very simple. For the past 4 years, the Republican Party has been trying the same old strategy. A Washington, D.C. candidate backed by Washington, D.C. out-of-town money, living in Hidalgo County to come run for the people of Canada. And that's why they will not stand for it. Now they traded a bird from Mexico for a veteran prosecutor. It still will not work, ladies and gentlemen. We need a candidate that is from the district, that lives among the people, that knows the problems, and will not just work on those, but provide solutions. Energy, water, jobs, healthcare, making sure that our children and their children have a future. And that is what I promise you today. American ingenuity, American innovation. We can do it. That is what brought this place to the amazingness that it is, watching rockets launch from this very beach. So today, on March 3rd, I ask you to vote Kunkel for Congress, vote local, vote Kunkel.
We talked a lot today about what we'd like to do. But the most important decision I think everybody in this room has is who up here do you believe is going to be able to beat Vicente Gonzalez in November? Vicente is a career politician. He's a trial lawyer. He spent years mastering the Washington system. To beat him, we don't need another lawyer or politician with a record of political or personal baggage, by the way. We don't need someone whose career is built on legal maneuvering and political favors. I am a retail leader, an ordained minister. I'm not a politician. Guaranteed I don't have any baggage, and I will do what's right. If you want a representative who answers strictly to God, the Constitution, and you, my name's Keith Allen, KeithAllen4Congress.com. I'd love to have your support. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to address something really quick. The church case that he talks about, they need to pay their bills. I requested mediation. I don't protect or defend child predators. My firm represents governmental entities. I am not the lead of that case who represents a coach. So go back and fact check that and tell your pastors to pay the bills. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a very simple ask here tonight, and it's simple. I am asking for your trust once again to serve this nation as I have as a distinguished leader for over 16 years. I have served with honor, I have served with pride, and I most importantly have served with selfless service, always putting the country above myself. Could have easily gone to the private sector very early on, but I chose to serve my country, and my country has called me again. The service manufacturer of the M41, ladies and gentlemen, Eric Willis.
Yes, I'm wrong because God is not done with America. Especially God is not done with South. I ask for your vote, definitely. But what I want you to look into is extremely important: character and integrity. And I mentioned it earlier. All the candidates, When they put signs, have they asked for permission? That just gives you a small window to look into that. Period. Because that just, what's gonna happen in the future where there's bigger things, that there's more interest in those guys. So you can fact check everything and you can go and talk to every property owner where I have a sign. They can tell you with certainty that I said I asked for permission. So character and integrity matters. So for that reason, I'm asking for your vote and support on March 3rd. Again, this is Luke Montego. Thank you for being here. May God bless you and may God bless the United States of America.
Thank you. Well, I'm from San Benito, class of 2004. You're from Parliament. I know we have beef, but I'm gonna ask you to put that beef aside in the primary and vote for Mayra Flores. And remind you that a nation cannot truly be led without faith in God and the guidance of the Bible. And in my time of Congress, I actually have a voting record to run on. And that is why I want you to do your research. You know, in my time of Congress, there was a bill called the Marriage Act. Sounds nice. Why wouldn't Myra protect it? Well, it was about same-sex marriage. I believe in life, and if I want to promote life, I have to promote marriage between a woman and a man. So I voted America first, but I always put God first in my voting record as well. Voted to protect the sanctity of life. Voted to protect your Second Amendment. When vote for Mayra Flores. God bless you.
Do not leave.
There's more?
Yeah.
Okay. Check this out, and please don't leave. We got our county GOP.
Yeah, it's for Congress, right?
Yeah.